Today we will discuss on gross elements and gross universe first. So unlike the subtle elements, the gross elements are compounds. They are produced by the combination of the subtle elements in certain proportions. This is a very common thing I'm going to discuss, which is called Panchikaranam, which is called Panchikaranam. So we have discussed it earlier in detail in definitions of Vedanta series. So now, what about that certain proportion? There are 5 gross elements. We know ether or sky, air, fire, water, and earth. Each gross element consists of 1/2 portion of its subtle counterpart and 1/8 of each of the 4 remaining subtle elements. I think you could understand. I always give a very simple example regarding this. Suppose both of you have, there are 5 people and everyone has 2 1 rupee coin. So if anyone tells them that you please divide the money equally, so what they do? That 1 rupee coin, one is there, another 24 paisas. There are 4 24 paisas, charana. So what A, B, C, D, E, suppose 5 persons are there. So A keep 1 rupee coin with him or her intact and distribute the 4 25 paisa coins with his 4 friends, B, C, D, E. Likewise, B does the same thing, C does the same, D does the same, E does the same. So at the end of the day, what happens? Everyone has 2 rupee, where their half amount is with them, means 1 rupee, and 4 24 paisas from different friends. Clear? So this is the Panchikaranam theory. So gross akasha or ether, for example, consists of 1/2 portion of subtle akasha and 1/8 each of subtle air, fire, water, and earth. Though the one gross element thus contains all 5 of the subtle, yet its name is derived from the preponderance of its particular counterpart. The attributes of the subtle elements are imperceptible to the senses. They become tangible in the gross elements. Gross ether is endowed with the attribute of sound. Gross air is endowed with the attribute of air, with sound and touch. Gross fire is endowed with the attribute of sound, touch, and form. Gross water is endowed with the attributes of sound, touch, form, and taste. And gross earth is endowed with the attribute of with the sound, touch, form, taste, and smell. As stated before, we earlier discussed that the spatial attributes of air is what? Touch. Spatial attribute of fire is form. Spatial attribute of water is taste. And spatial attribute of earth is smell. The five elements are, as it were, the bricks of the tangible physical universe. Clear? So this is the concept of gross element. Now we will discuss about the gross universe, that how that universe are created, how the feature of the gross universe. Vedantic tradition enumerates 14 worlds. It enumerates about 14 worlds which constitute the whole universe. Both heaven and hell are included in this. Naturally, the enjoyments of the higher worlds are of a refined nature, and those of the nether worlds or lower worlds are actually, just a minute. So the thing is, what it told, that naturally the enjoyments of the higher worlds are of a refined nature, and those of the nether worlds or lower worlds are gross. But nevertheless, all the denizens of the universe are in the realm of Maya. And therefore, nothing, nobody in this universe are free. They are all bound by Maya. They are in the realm of Maya. The seven upper worlds are known as Bhu, Bhuva, Swaha, Maha, Jana, Tapa, and Satya. Clear? And the seven nether worlds or lower worlds are Atala, Vitala, Sutala, Rasatala, Talatala, Mahatala, and Patala. Clear? The world known as Bhuhu, Bhurloka, or Prithvi Loka is this earth on which we dwell. Swaha is Swargaloka, or heaven, you can say, is a celestial world where people after death enjoy material happiness as a reward for their meritorious action on earth. Clear? Bhuvaloka is the inter Bhuvaloka is the uh, inter intermediary loka, a region between these two. Jana, Tapa, and Satyam constitute Brahmaloka, or the plane of Brahman. Sorry, Brahmaloka is the plane of Brahmaji. There is no connection with the Brahman. That I wanted to tell. That Jana, Tapa, Satya constitute Brahmaloka, means the plane of Brahmaji, of which Brahmaji is the controlling deity. It may be said to correspond to the highest heaven of the dualistic religion. Okay. For the dualistic religions, they are the highest heaven, where fortunate souls repair after death and enjoy spiritual communion with the personal God. According to non-dualistic Vedanta, even the inhabitants of this region are not liberated souls. They also keep a little trace of Maya, with Satya predominating. At the end of the cycle, they merge in the Supreme Brahman, or Absolute, and attain liberation, though a very few return to earth from Brahmaloka. Now, the plane of Maha is an intermediary region between Brahmaloka and the three other worlds, namely Bhuhu, Bhuva, and Swaha. The seven nether worlds, of which Patala is the lowest, are regions where wicked souls sojourn after death to reap the results of their unrighteous actions on earth. They also, in due course, are born on earth and take up the thread of spiritual evolution. According to Vedanta, no soul can be deprived of ultimate liberation, which is the birthright of every being. Besides these 14 world systems, The five gross elements produce the four kinds of gross bodies dwelling therein, and the food and a drink appropriate to them. The gross bodies are those that are born of womb, are called yonija, belonging to men and various animals. Those that are born of eggs are called andaja, belonging to birds and reptiles. Those that are born of moisture are called svedaja, belonging to lice and mosquitoes. And those that are born of earth, belonging to trees and creepers there also. So the body that a jiva assumes on earth is determined by its past karma. Again, I'm telling, the body that a jiva assumes on earth is determined by its past karma. The gross bodies also, in their fourfold variety, may be regarded like the subtle bodies, collectively or individually. They may be regarded as a whole, like a wood, or as separate entities, like the trees in a wood. Consciousness limited in uh, or conditioned by upadhi, uh, just a minute, just a minute. So, consciousness limited or conditioned by the upadhi of the aggregate of the gross bodies is called Virat or Vaishvanar. Clear? It regards all the gross bodies of the universe as its own body. The body belonging to Virata, through which it functions, is called the Annamaya Kosha. The gross physical sheath, on account of its being a modification of food, it functions in the waking state and experiences gross objects. So this Annamaya Kosha, what does? It functions in the waking state and experience the gross objects. Now, consciousness limited by the individual gross body, any one of the individual gross bodies belonging to the four classes enumerated earlier, is called Vishwa. Though it functions through the gross body, yet it does not dissociate itself completely from the subtle body or the mind, which is endowed with the power of thinking and imagining. Now, the gross body belonging to Vishwa, through which it functions, is also called Annamaya Kosha. The gross physical seed or elementary seed, on account of its being a product of food, it functions in waking state and experiences through the organs of perception, objects of sound, touch, form, taste, and smell. It uses the five organs of actions for the purpose of speaking, holding, walking, excreting, and procreating. Further, through the inner organ of the mind, is experiences, it experiences, uncertainty, it's the function of the mind, determination, the function of the buddhi, egoism, the function of the ahankara, and remembrance, the function of the chitta. What is true of Vishwa is also true of Vaishvanara, or consciousness functioning through the collective gross body in the waking state. So what is there? So Vishwa is individual gross body. Vaishvanara is the collective gross body. Now, the thing is, the jiva or embodied soul is limited by three kinds of upadhis. In dreamless sleep, it is limited by the upadhi of the causal body. Dreamless sleep means deep sleep. Okay. In the dream state, by that of the subtle body, and in the waking state, by the upadhi of both the gross and the subtle body. Consciousness, as it identifies itself with each of these upadhis, is technically known as prajna. I'm talking about individual upadhi. Okay? When it is identified with the consciousness, or consciousness identified with the each upadhi, individual person, when it is in deep sleep, called prajna. When it is in dream state, is called taijasa, and when it is in waking state, called vishva. Now, the gross body is created by the sperma and ovum of the parents, which are products of food. After the body is sustained by food, and after death of this body, it dissolves into the food. The gross body, including the sense organs, whether collective or individual, is inert. Clear? It is without any consciousness and cannot function by itself. So Vedantists state that different forms of consciousness use the sense organs as their instruments, control them, and enable them to experience their respective objects. These are but different aspects of universal consciousness, limited by their respective upadhis. Vedantists call them the devatas, shining ones. Div dhatu means shining. From div dhatu, devata comes. Okay. Or the controlling deities. Devatas are nothing but the controlling deities. Like as the macrocosm and the microcosm show the same pattern, the identical deity or deity controls the sense organs and its counterpart in the universe. Thus, for instance, the sun is the controlling deity or uh, consciousness of the eyes. That is to say, the consciousness that controls the sun is the same as that which controls the eyes. Similarly, Agni or fire is the controlling deity of the tongue. Indra is the controlling deity of hands. So it seems that the purpose of this thought pattern is to enable a man to stretch his consciousness so that he may identify himself with the universe and the consciousness behind it. The collective gross body and the individual gross body are in essence identical, like a wood or jungle of the trees that constitute it. So likewise are the two forms of consciousness which are limited by them, known as, I told you earlier, Vaishvanara and Vishwa. Like the space limited by the wood and the trees. Now the sum total of the gross, subtle and causal world forms a higher aggregate which may be designed as the vast universe, just as the sum total of various woods, each consisting of many individual trees, constitutes a vast wood, or the sum total of various bodies of water of many dimensions constitutes a vast lake or region. It is one and the same consciousness that is associated with the upadhis or conditioning of the vast universe and the gross, subtle and causal worlds, as it is one and the same akasha or space that is limited by the vast wood and the number of small woods that constitute it. The direct import of the great Vedic dictum, all this is verily Brahman. Sarvam khalu idam Brahman, or Sarvam khalvidam Brahman, is the consciousness associated with the vast universe together with Turiya, which is the basic and unrelated consciousness, when these are not differentiated from each other, but Turiya itself, without the consciousness associated with the vast universe, is the implied meaning of this Vedic text. This is explained by the illustration of a red hot iron ball. When such a ball is said to burn an object, the direct meaning of the word ball is the iron permeated by fire. Fireball. Fire is shapeless, and iron in general is cold. But the thing is, when such a ball is said to burn an object, the direct meaning of the word ball is the iron permeated by fire. But it is really the fire that burns. Clear? Because iron can't burn. Therefore, the implied meaning of the word is fire. Fire burns, not the ball. Likewise, the Vedic dictum, all that is verily Brahman, really implies Turiya, or pure consciousness without any upadhi or conditioning whatsoever. Therefore, when a non-dualist says that the universe is Brahman, actually he does not mean, like a pantheist, that Brahman has become the universe with its names and forms. He means that the universe is, in reality, Turiya or pure consciousness. In the same way, Ishvara, that is to say, Brahman associated with the upadhi or conscious or conditioning of consciousness cosmic Maya, together with its substratum Turiya, is the direct meaning of that. So Tattvam Asi, we said, that thou art. That thou art. I told you everything has a literal meaning and implied meaning. So, again, I'm telling in the same way, Ishvara, that is to say, Brahman associated with Upadhi of cosmic Maya, the whole cosmic Maya, together with its substratum, Turiya is the direct meaning of Tat or that in the Vedic dictum. That thou art is the Vedic dictum, but its implied meaning is Turiya alone. It is only as pure consciousness, as will be discussed later on, that Tat or that is identical with thou or Ishvara with Jiva.